The average American family doesn't know this number, $1.2 trillion. That's how much credit card debt is sitting on American households right now. Not mortgages, not student loans, just credit cards. And here's the part that should actually scare you. Most of these people have jobs. Most aren't buying luxury cars or expensive vacations. They're buying groceries, gas, school supplies, and they're paying more than 20% interest to do it. So maybe the question isn't, why are people bad with money? Maybe the real question is, something changed. Wages moved slowly, rent moved fast, healthcare moved fast, groceries moved fast. The gap between income and everyday survival kept growing, and credit cards quietly stepped into that, not as a luxury, as a lifeline. That's what most people miss. Modern credit card debt isn't mainly a spending problem.
It's a math problem, and the math is brutal. Here's how the business actually works. Credit card companies make money from interest, fees, and a small cut every time you swipe. But the most profitable customer isn't the person who pays everything off every month. Inside the industry, those customers are often called deadbeats. Not because they're irresponsible, because they generate the least profit. The real money comes from people who carry balances. Think about what that means. The system makes the most money when debt stays around. Which brings us to minimum payments. A minimum payment feels harmless, maybe 2% of your balance, maybe a little more, small enough that almost anyone can afford it. But that's exactly the point. The lower the payment feels, the longer the debt survives. And the longer the debt survives, the more interest gets collected. Now, let's look at the numbers. Imagine you owe $5,000 on a credit card, charging 24% interest. A pretty normal rate today. If you only make minimum payments, that debt can follow you for more than a decade.
And by the end, you may pay thousands of dollars in interest alone. What's frightening is how people get there. Usually not through one giant mistake, through dozens of tiny ones. A grocery bill that's slightly higher than expected, a tank of gas before payday, a school expense that couldn't wait. Each decision feels small, almost invisible, but stack enough of them together and a temporary balance becomes a permanent one. That's the trap. Debt rarely arrives as a crisis. It arrives as a small problem that never fully disappears. Now compare the marketing to the reality. The marketing says, cash back, travel rewards, points, build your financial future. The reality is more complicated. Rewards programs are largely funded by people who carry debt. In other words, the customers paying interest often help fund the rewards enjoyed by customers who don't. And then there's the credit score system. To access housing, loans, and financial opportunities, people are encouraged to use credit responsibly, which sounds reasonable, until someone is already struggling financially. Then the tool designed to measure financial responsibility becomes something they feel forced to use, even when the risk is obvious. And that's where this story gets bigger than credit cards. When millions of households start financing everyday survival with high-interest debt, the consequences don't stay personal. Every dollar spent on interest is a dollar not saved, not invested, not used to build future wealth. Multiply that across millions of families, and the effect becomes economic, not individual. And there's another problem. As more households rely on debt to cover basic expenses, their margin for error disappears. One job loss, one medical bill, one unexpected emergency, and a financial situation that was barely working can collapse completely. So this isn't just a story about credit cards. It's a story about what happens when the cost of living rises faster than the ability to pay for it. Credit card debt isn't growing because millions of Americans suddenly became irresponsible. It's growing because credit became the bridge between income and survival. But bridges built on 24% interest don't hold forever, which leaves one final question. If an entire country increasingly relies on high-interest debt just to maintain a normal standard of living, what does that say about the system underneath it? Not the people trapped inside it, the system itself.